Hey there! Are you planning your next or maybe even your first long motorcycle trip and you don't want to repeat the same mistakes I or other people did? Then please hear me out because I've got some stuff to share with you. Maybe to gain some street credibility, my name is Alan and I love doing everything related to motorcycles all my life, and I'm also kind of an adventurer. I really like to visit places people don't usually visit, and I like sometimes also like going through really uncomfortable situations just to get stronger when I'm coming out of them. So my last couple noteworthy, I guess, journeys where I was in the Saharan desert, riding there for 3 weeks around with a friend of mine, and basically our goal was to learn how to ride in the sand and also how to read the sand. And we were just there on our own. Sometimes it was a bit sketchy, I guess, but we were in Tunisia, which is quite a safe place, or at least what I would suggest, supposed to be a safe place. And it was really fun, although I had some learnings from there I'm gonna share with you in that video. Then another trip, basically highlighted for its long days, was when I was going to the Netherlands, basically touring to and through the Netherlands, and I was there with my Husky 701 Supermoto. I was on the road all the time and I made like 1,000 kilometers in a day, which is stupid. You can do it, but I'm gonna go more into detail on what's achievable and what not. Then this summer I was 2 weeks out in Romania. We were riding along the Carpathian Mountains with 3 friends of mine, and we had a blast there. We were camping outside all night long, and it was great, although it was some of the wildest nature you can find in Europe. Then I guess a funny one was when I decided to ride the TET, the Trans-European Trail, with my just like 2 days before of that I finished completely restoring my first motorcycle, and I rode that in 4 days to Spain, which was like 2,000 kilometers, so 500 a day, which doesn't seem like much, but it was all off-road. So I was riding from when the sun came up until it was pitch dark, and yeah, that was fun. So next up, I'm planning to cross North Africa on my DRC. You've seen on this channel on the horse, the big war horse. And maybe I'm gonna do that alone, or maybe somebody stupid enough to join me. But in this video, I want to recap my previous mistakes I did before, and so I don't make them again, and I can improve from each learning I do have. Before you even start planning your trip, you need to know what type of traveler you are, because that has some effects on the trip. And if you're choosing the wrong trip for your needs, it might end up not to your liking. So make sure you find out if you're an explorer that likes to go see lost places and likes to ride on dual sports, adventure bikes, and find untouched destinations. Or rather, if you're a tourer that likes to tour through cities and places and just cover long distances on maybe a touring bike, a sport tourer, a cruiser, just be comfortable on it. Maybe you're a thrill seeker that is just rushing for that pump of adrenaline. Maybe you're that, and then maybe you're best found on a sport bike, or maybe an enduro or something where you can go to really hard terrain. Or if you're just a minimalist and you don't really care about the bike at all, it's just about the journey and you want to travel light and without having many responsibilities. Or if you're a social rider and you prefer to ride in a group, or that's actually your main focus, riding in a group and not alone. So maybe you ride whatever fits the group's need, but your goal is to build connections and share the joy of motorcycling and not just a particular ride. So be aware of which one you are. Personally, I would say I'm kind of an explorer mainly, but with like 10 or maybe 20% thrill seeker in it. I'm also a bit of a minimalist, although I care about the bike I ride, and I'm not really a tourer, and I'm also not really a social rider because let's cover that in a bit, but group rides always take much longer than you expect. So that's basically it. Then we head to the next part, which is actually gonna be your bike. Probably the worst mistake you can do when you're starting a new motorcycle adventure is just not taking care of the bike or yourself before you start it, because you need to be in excellent condition physically, or at least you need to know how to handle yourself, even though you have allergies or whatever. You need to be prepared because things can go wrong, especially if you're outside most of the day. You have wind chill effect and so on. So that's one point, your personal health, but then there's also the health of the bike, which is really, really important. Because even minor stuff, maybe like, let's say, a linkage that is not greased enough and just gets stuck over time, can actually just halt your travel for quite a while. If you're in a place that doesn't have the spare parts needed, you're stuck basically. So when I was in Africa, in Tunisia, I actually just rebuilt the bike the winter before, and I wasn't fully done with it because I still didn't set up the carb properly and so on. So when I got to the hotter climates, I got problems by hot starting the bike. So every time I got stuck, let's say in sand or whatever, I couldn't start the bike anymore. I had to push the starter button for maybe sometimes even a minute, and it didn't work. Usually when we went to gas station, I just bump started the bike, which was extremely annoying because it's so hot and you're just burning away. And that really taught me that if you're in a country like that, you need to be aware because there are dogs, and we once had an incident where I was chased by dogs, and my friend who was behind me, he used the horn, and I thought he wanted to tell me to stop, which I actually did, but then I turned around and I saw like 3 huge dogs running at me, and they were like maybe 5 meters away, and luckily I didn't turn off the bike, because if I would have done that, I mean, it's not optimal as you know. So make sure you and your bike are in optimal condition to continue or to start the journey. Then let's get to the next mistake, which is not having a travel plan. And by having a travel plan, I don't mean you need to know exactly on what date, where are you gonna be, how long you sleep, what you're gonna eat, and so on. I'm not that type of person anyway. I don't really like detailed planning. I just like to set some milestones, let's say. So first off, you need to know what's your goal, what are you trying to reach by that journey. And then you also need to see what are maybe some obstacles. Maybe there's a ferry that just crosses on certain days in a month or a week. Maybe there are landslides, like bad weather or something like that. So that's something you need to know. Then maybe you also need to be aware of the different languages spoken. And I usually like to at least have like a little sheet of paper for each language I need to speak, where I just have the most important, let's say, the numbers: hello, thank you, I need food, I have a problem with my bike, and stuff like that. Just those sentences written on there, Sometimes you can add it phonetically, but you can also give that to somebody to read. If you have a no cell phone reception or whatever, then that's really important. Then you also need to have a rough travel plan so you don't run out of money, because even maybe the duration is getting longer and longer of your travel, or maybe it's also that you didn't take into account that you need to pay for a visa for a country, or there is just guys ripping you off, or you need to stay longer and pay more for food or accommodation or whatever. So need to have a rough plan on that. Then having that plan is also ideal for profiting the seasonal climate, because if you go to the Cape North in winter, I mean, that's been done before, but it wouldn't be on my bucket list, to be honest. So maybe rather find like a spring or a fall season. Then another risk if you don't have a travel plan is running out of time, because you need to do way more kilometers in a day than you actually were planning to do. Luckily, this never really happened to me. I mean, somehow it did in Romania, because my friend had an accident there. I'll cover that in a bit. And then, we had to wait in some place for a while, and then we needed to go back. It was still okay, but just make sure you have enough slack to not get stuck in another country. Then you need to stay flexible enough just to let life happen. Even though you have a rough plan, you should still go out, meet people, and visit other places, visit cultures. And if they invite you to their home and they're good people, then so be it. Enjoy that. So that's my tips for having a travel plan. Now, if you're having a rough travel plan, you can also make sure you're not trying to cover too much distance within a day, because that can just cause stress and gives you that kind of poisonous feeling. If you're just stressed, you need to know, I'm here, I need to go there. That's what causes stress if you're not there where you want to be. And it's just dangerous, because then maybe you're speeding or your experience is just bad. So always also add in some slack, not too much, but enough so it's not getting boring, but also you're not always rushing on a tight schedule. Then also, if you're riding in a group, that just changes the game completely, because if you're, let's say, a group of two, you're already getting much slower, because sometimes you need to go to pee and sometimes the other guy needs to go pee. And if you're four people, somebody maybe has a different character, wants to take a different route, prefers more off-road riding, the other guy prefers more riding on the street, maybe also has some daily structure preferences, and also financial situations that are different. And of course, most importantly, the riding style. And if that doesn't really match up, that chemistry, it can be really hard, especially after, let's say, a week or two. You can really get to know the people, how they really are, and make sure you're choosing the right people when you're going on a trip with other people. So I've just added you here like a reference table, a rule of thumb, to show what's kind of possible within a day. So in that dusk till dawn section, that's what I wouldn't recommend doing every day. That's maybe what's feasible for one day if you have a rest day the day after. But usually, I mean, you can go 1200 kilometers, that's feasible on a highway, but then like your ears are ringing and you're just done and you need a rest day. So I would stay between that most of the day riding, like 8 hours of riding, which is already like a lot. If you're just 8 hours purely riding, that's maybe a day of, let's say, 10 or 12 hours where you're on the road with buying some stuff to eat, or maybe having a quick break, enjoying some views. That's already quite much. So part of the day, 5 hours, that's actually what I'm usually planning in. if I'm, especially if I'm not alone or if I'm on longer journeys, then I do that. I use these numbers here, and then usually I'll be around overland, so 300 kilometers, maybe mixed 225 if it's a bit off-road. And if you're in the desert or yeah, in Romania, even worse, yeah, don't expect to cover more than 170 kilometers. And if you're really riding rough terrain, some days you can only get like 50 kilometers far. So yeah, just don't overestimate yourself, and that's gonna also cause you to stay safe on the road and have a great experience doing your trip. Now let's do some story time of an incident we had in Romania, where we were on the group ride. We were 4 people. We were all on dual sports. Some had lighter bikes like a KTM EXC 500. Others had a KTM 690, and one other guy had a Yamaha XT 600. And I mean, it's not the lightest bikes, and also the skills of the riders were not the best, or they were not the most experienced. And it was 4 p.m. around that time. We decided to grab something to drink from a local store, and we were making our plans and consulting the map to figure out where are we going next. So maybe like half of the group already was pretty tired of that long day. We were riding quite a bit, and still we kind of figured out that there was no good camping spot in the place where we've been. So we need to cross another mountain range to get to the next valley where we can find a spot to sleep. So we somehow agreed to do that, and we started climbing this mountain. And at the beginning it was really fun. I can also show you some videos here from where we were doing hill climbs, basically exhausting ourselves to the last brink, and that was maybe 4:30 in the afternoon. Sunset was supposed to be around 7 o'clock, and we just kept on pushing. And once we were up the mountain, it was just getting more rocky kind of terrain. So you were riding and your front wheel was just bouncing left and right and left and right. And my friend, he actually fell on this trip, I guess, 3 times. The first 2 times were okay. He just couldn't use the engine brake well enough on his bike, because it was just, in my opinion, it was set up the wrong way. So he fell 3 times in total, and the last time he didn't. What happened? The last time he didn't get up anymore. I mean, he was conscious, everything was fine, but he tore, or he just twisted his ankle quite badly, and he couldn't step on it anymore. So we were just 4 people with 4 bikes on a mountain top, pretty much maybe 50 to 100 kilometers away from civilization. And it was at maybe 2,000 meters of altitude. So we couldn't camp up there because all of them had thin sleeping bags with them. So we would have it would have been very cold, and we tried to continue and find somebody who can help us. So the way we did that, I mean, it was so rocky, it was so steep, it was just a pain in the butt. We would have been faster by just walking, but basically I instructed my friend to, let's show it here on the model, to sit on the bike and then just have one foot on the footrest here, and then use the other foot just to step the foot that was still intact. He just used to kind of push against the sides and just slowly walk his way down. And that's what we did for an hour. And we knew that we cannot continue like that, so we tried to find help. And luckily there were some shepherds up on that mountain, and we asked them if they can help us get our injured friend down. and they were actually nice enough to do that. And yeah, with that, my other friend who got he got a puncture. So we were four guys, with one had a damaged leg, the other guy had a puncture in his front wheel, and we needed to get down that freaking mountain. So there was a woman nice enough to bring my friend down, but we just needed also to get his bike down there. So that ended up in him sitting in the car, with me and my friend kind of joining him with his bike. Then we went all down with that woman. It was a four by four track, so nothing he would have ridden anymore. So it was good. We decided to do that. And then we needed to go back up again. So the woman drove us back up again, which was really nice. And it took like each time it took like an hour to get down there and an hour to get up. And then I found my other friend there who just repaired his tire quite a while ago. And then I needed to go down that mountain, and it was like 10 o'clock in the evening. So long story short, if you're at a point where you are quite late in the day and you know there's not going to be a return after that, make sure that you don't miss the right point to turn around. Because if you miss that, in this case it was nobody got hurt badly, but still it ended our trip kind of early because our friend couldn't ride anymore off-road. He still could ride street. That was our luck. But it changed the dynamic. So make sure to plan enough time and to not be too overconfident, because that's where accidents happen. Then the next mistake I commonly see is regarding the navigation setup. So of course, if you're somebody who just uses road signs and so on, that's fine. But if you're not, and if you're in a foreign place, you need to have a proper navigation setup. So what I usually do is I do have a separate device, a separate mobile phone, and I download all the maps on there with an app called Osmand. And that's really great. The link is in the description. I'm not getting paid by them or whatever. I actually had to pay for that, but it's just a great app because you see all the terrain and everything. It just takes a while to set up, but if you have that set up, you can download maps and do everything. The reason why I'm saying you need to have a separate navigation device is following. Either you could have it stolen, or maybe it's getting destroyed by rain, or maybe an accident if that happens. And then also the vibrations on your handlebar or wherever your device is mounted causes your camera and maybe also other internals of your device to be destroyed. So I had a couple of phones that were destroyed by riding hard off-road, and they just don't work as well anymore after that. So regarding navigation, Osmand is my way to go, at least for having the map and navigating. And then I use a German, I guess, app called Kurviger, and that's great because it's a free app that kind of provides you, if you're not at the end of the world, it will provide you a very nice calculated route where you have some twisties in it. And you can actually, it's like Kalimoto, where you can say how straight of a line you want to have, or how many twisties you want to have in there, and so on. Then, don't rely on tech, and keep a paper map on hand, or at least know where you are, because especially if you go to the desert, you need to have a compass or just something to let you know in what direction you need to go. Because if you get lost out there, that's going to be really, really dangerous. Then let's go to the probably most common mistake, which is, surprise, bringing too much gear. And usually everybody does that, especially if they're new to adventure riding. everybody brings too much gear, but I need to have this and that and my I don't know, my teddy bear and whatever. Keep it simple. So my rule of thumb is up to 5% of your bike's weight in luggage is great for harder enduro. So let's say your bike or my bike weighs 150 kilograms. That would be 7.5. That's, you feel it, but not much, and that's optimal. But of course, if you have camping gear and so on, that's really hard to achieve. So what I usually try to do is to keep it to that 10% of the bike weight. So for my 150 kilogram DRC, I try to keep it under 15 kilograms, which is quite hard to achieve, but I'm gonna give you some tips on how you can do that. Then if you go to that 20% bike range weight, then it's still manageable, but it's taking kind of the fun out of riding, especially when you're riding off-road. So I had that when I was in Tunisia. I had too much weight on the bike, and my rear suspension was just hitting the wheel basically, and that wasn't fun because you just had to slow down every time, and it was not really cool. Then if you go over 20%, which is like 30 kilograms and over in this example, you basically got a passenger sitting on the bike. And if you're riding off-road, I highly wouldn't recommend that. I mean, of course, if you need to carry something or whatever, but for longer stretches, it just takes the fun out. It's not good for the bike. It doesn't, it's not optimal. So try to keep that to that 10%. And let me show you some tips I can give you to keep that weight down. So first and most important, I mean, only applies if you go camping as well, but keep your camping gear light. Overspend on a sleeping bag. Let's say get a down sleeping bag and a light tent and a light mattress. Keep that as light as possible and also as compact as possible, because a sleeping bag, I do have a sleeping bag which goes to -9 degrees, and if that's fully packed, it's like this size. And other sleeping bags which would have the same temperature, they would be like this big or even larger. So maybe spend a bit on the sleeping bag, but keep that weight down. Then also one good thing to take with you is a down jacket, just to have a really compact jacket that is really warm. And here also, if you really are going for adventures, overspend some money on that, because it's what's keeping you warm if you're freezing and you don't want to have something with low quality. Then try to keep your clothes as minimal as possible. So I usually bring my riding gear, and then I will bring one set of nice clothes. So maybe a clean t-shirt. That's what I'm also using if I go have dinner or something. And then I bring 2 sets of riding clothes. So that basically means like a t-shirt, some socks, and some underwear. And that's basically it. Then I just put the riding gear on top, and that's about it. And with that nice set of clothes, you can also bring some pants, maybe some zip-off pants, so you have short and long pants combined, and also some swimming pants if you like to do that. Then for shoes, of course, if you're already having your riding boots, then I usually try to keep the shoes as minimal as possible. So either bring a pair of flip-flops if you're going to a warmer region, or better just get some thin shoes. You can use like the beach sandals. They start to smell after a while, so be careful about that. But just use something lightweight and which also dries up fairly quickly. Then gloves. I mean, here you cannot really save weight except if you're not bringing 3 different pairs of gloves. So I usually try to find a compromise between warmth and feeling, which works. I'd rather go to the colder side and then use some gas station plastic gloves and just put them underneath my regular gloves, so I keep my hands from being wet or just from the wind. Then there is also a decision you need to take if you want to bring a jacket or a protection vest. Me usually like to ride with a protector vest, so I can just have a rain jacket and everything, which I can just layer on top. I can also use my down jacket on that, so I really have a functional and multi-purpose system. I can also use my rain jacket if I'm just outside anyway or whatever. So that's my tips to save weight on gear. Then of course there's plenty other stuff like making sure you maybe place an air tag in your bike, so if it gets stolen you can know where it is. And also if you go to some countries you need to have a visa and so on. I'm not gonna go into detail on that. If you like to know more about something specific, please let me know. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you are gonna have a benefit by planning your next travel. And let me also know where that next travel will go. I'm really interested in to see where you guys are heading. And if you want to stay on track where I'm going in the next trip, then subscribe to the channel and you'll see if I'm gonna do the mistakes over again or if I'm learning from them. So yeah, thanks for watching. I wish you a great evening or day or whatever you're having, and we'll see us in the next one. Peace.